All right, today we're talking about a geometric and arithmetic series. We're going to talk about arithmetic, but we're not going to use it. There is a reference on the reference sheets for it, but for the most part, we are geometric. All right, so what if a series? A series is simply adding the terms of a sequence. So it's just a sequence. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up, all the way up to 100. That's a sequence. But putting the plus sign in between makes it now a series. Okay, so we still have the terms, but instead of separated by a comma, they're now separated by a plus or a minus sign for that matter. So if I wanted to add these up, this would take me a while. And so this one looks ridiculous to add those up. So what we have is formulas for these. There's a formula for the arithmetic. Okay. Remember, you use that when you have a common difference. So an arithmetic sequence has a common difference. Geometric has a common ratio. So this one would be geometric, and this is the one that we would be working on today. Determine if you need a formula. Okay. Sometimes it is easier just to add them up ourselves. So if they want the first 7 terms added up, I'm just going to add them. What do I need a formula for? But you may need this for other reasons. So this is the formula they give you on the reference sheet. This is the one that is generally accepted in math circles. But they took the A1 and they multiplied it through. A1, remember, is the first term. R is the common ratio. N is the number of terms that we want to add up. Okay, and then solve. Sometimes they're going to have you solve for A1, sometimes R, sometimes N. But here we go. So if we want to find the sum of the first 8 terms of the series, this would be easy just to add up. Okay, so I encourage you to do that, especially on a Regents or on a test of some sort where you're strapped. Okay, but I'm going to use the formula here because I want to show you, how to use the formula. So there it is. So these are the things that you need. You need your R, you need your A1, and those look familiar, but then you also need N. Remember, N is the number of terms. So R, we got to figure it out. So we look at, this is 4, this is -2. So remember, R is one term divided by the term before. So -2 seems to be the common ratio. A1 is simply the first term. And how many terms do we want? Well, we want 8. So then we just plug it in. S of 8. So I'm just using this formula here. I want to use this one. S of n, so if that's the number of terms. A1 is -2. 1 minus the common ratio to the 8th power divided by 1 minus -2. All right, and then we just do the math and figure that out. So take a second and do the math and see if we get the same answer. All right, so I got S sub 8 being 170. Just be careful with parentheses and things like this. The bottom number, remember, that would be negative. That would be a 3. So when you add them up, you get 170. Okay, then we get to word problems where these things occur. So remember, we have to use our, we have this rate here, but we have to use our percent. That's our percent rate of change. Again, I don't know why this happens all the time. I'm sorry. All right, so to use the formula, we want to find the total of rent that he's paid, or I've paid, or whatever. So we have we need the common ratio, R. We need A1, and we need the number of terms to do this. So not just how much he pays every month, but how much he pays, how much he's paid total in 8 years. So 8 years is great. Now, interestingly enough, we're talking years here, but he pays $600 a month. So 600 times 12, that would be my first year, 7,200, because it's not monthly. He is paying monthly, but we want to know over the course of years. So my thing is going to be years. and the rent increases 10% every year, so we kind of want to stay in years. So it increases, so remember the common ratio is 1 plus the 10%, so it's 1.1 or 1.10. So those are the three things that we need. So if I want to find my S of n, I simply do A1, 1 minus the common ratio to the 8th power, 1 minus 1.1. Right, and then we just simply plug it in, and I wanted this to be 8, and we see what we get. Okay, since we're talking money, it's $82,338.39. That's a lot of bread. How many terms are there? So this is where we have how many terms. So that means we're looking for n. We don't know what n is. So we're going to use our formula slightly differently. And, you know, probably logs might be involved depending on how it turns out. So we have our formula. We need our r. They tell you that that's 3. They tell you they tell you the first term is 4, but we don't know what n is. But what we do know is S of n. S of n is, sorry, I cut here every once in a while because I make mistakes. So when we plug this into the formula, this is the formula. S of n equals A1 times 1 minus r to the n over 1 minus r. So when I plug this in, 160 goes in for that. I just don't know what n is. So plugging it in, there's my n in my exponent, and then 1 minus 3. All right, now take a second and see if you can solve this. One hint here that this is 160 over 1, and this one right here is negative 2. So cross multiplying is one of those things you can do. All right, so the way that this one is, one thing you have to be careful, if when you distribute this 4 into it, you can't make this negative 12 because you have to do exponents before you can multiply. So this negative 4 has to stay out here. If you made that mistake, that's understandable, but remember order of operations. Okay, so subtract 4, divide by negative 4. Then we have 81 equals 3 to the n. So we could just, 81 is 3 to the 4th, or you can use logs. Either way, you should get 4. It should be term 4. Final thing, the sum of the geometric series, so that's S of n. They're telling you that is negative 189. They tell you the common ratio is 2. We want to find a of 1. So it's just using the formula and plugging it into different ways. One thing you have to recognize when you're in this class, formulas aren't just plug in and figure it out. You have to, you know, move things around quite often. So plugging this in, I know negative 189 is equal to a sub 1. And then 1 minus the common ratio. And that's, oh, we know n is 6 also. So the common ratio is 2 to the 6th. And then this is 1 minus 2. And we just solve. So go ahead. You're just solving for this guy. Hopefully you can do that. So it looks like my first term is negative 3. Okay, remember this is negative 1. I cross-multiplied here, made this positive 89. Figured out this number, turned out to be negative 63. So I just divide by negative 63, and I get my negative 3. So have a fantastic day, and I'll see you tomorrow.